welcome to the Lisa Pezik Show. So honored and excited today to have a gentleman from New Zealand, first time New Zealandite, I don't know what we call you, you can tell me, on the podcast. Brenton Webber is with us today to talk about a concept that is so vital to your business, to your life, to your growth, to your happiness. A concept that I want you to get now, today, and start implementing around the customer experience. I'm not here to tell you about a new sales strategy, a new funnel building technique. Brenton's going to talk to us about how do we value human beings? How do we keep the humanness in business and corporations? Brenton, hello.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. And you can refer to us as New Zealanders.
New Zealanders.
Most people know us as Kiwis.
Kiwis?
Yeah, because we have a Kiwi bird is our local bird. They're flightless birds. So we were I think it's Gondwana, which was like an ancient continent. And we slid off it, and no predators were found on our little islands. So we had this incredibly rich and varied bird life. And one of, I guess, the emblem of New Zealand is it's not the all black, although a lot of New Zealanders would think it, or the silver fern. It really is the kiwi. So much so that we had a referendum on a flag about 3 years ago, and this is why we're always appearing on like the John Oliver show and stuff like that, because what almost got through was a kiwi bird with laser beams coming out of its eyes. Like the country wanted that as our ongoing flag. I think that may have been a little bit of an indication of how seriously and the $3 million that was spent on a flag referendum was really taken by the population. Not a waste of money at all.
Yeah, no, of course not. But oh my goodness, I've never had anyone from New Zealand on, and so
I'm actually a POM. I'm not even a Kiwi. I'm soon going to be. I'm not a citizen yet. I'm a resident. I arrived here in 2006, and originally I'm from England, from the northwest of England, from a lovely seaside town, he says tongue-in-cheek, as Blackpool. So that's where I'm from the other side of the planet, where the weather is very different and we don't have kiwi birds.
There you go. I know, it's so interesting to always come on and talk about what life is like in your neck of the woods. And that's why I love what you do, because it doesn't matter what neck of the woods you're from. Your business is talking about people and how we grow people. And I'll tell them you are an interesting dude because you studied astronomy and physics. You're fascinated with how things fit together. And I love how you say there's no such thing as B2B or B2C. We're all in H2H, human to human business. So tell me a bit about where that came from and what your thoughts are about that.
Well, fundamentally, I think that business for a long time, and still by many, has forgotten its fundamental building blocks. And I love fundamental building blocks, fundamental principles, atomic theories. From my scientific background, I really love to see the complexity of the world and how things fit together. I'm not an A/B thinker. So, there's always inputs and amplifications happening that we like to keep things simple, which is really important, but I prefer to keep things elegant, because sometimes simplicity doesn't fit a model. And when it comes to business, what we've forgotten is that fundamentally it's based on neuroscience. And it's the same neuroscience that has been inside our brains from wherever we are on the planet, from whichever culture, whatever our gender may be. It's the same neuroscience that was being utilized when we were living in caves and drawing on walls. It's still the same dopamine reward pathway that allows us to plan for the future. And we don't really do anything like spend our money or swap our most valuable of resource, which is time, with employers or with companies that we're researching, unless there is some future payoff.
Yep.
And not dopamine. Let me take it right the way back to dopamine, because dopamine is one of those misunderstood. People think dopamine is almost like a drug. It's got some really bad reputation, dope head, and hey, a lot of bad recreations create a huge amount of dopamine.
Yep.
But that's why we like them, because dopamine is the fundamental neurotransmitter that allows us to think beyond our present moment. Every other neurotransmitter is about the here and now, and neuroscientists refer to them as the here and now molecules. And it's important to understand that. We don't want to freak people out when they're doing business with us. We want people to feel safe. But if people are going to spend money on a future outcome or share their time on a future outcome, they need to be thinking about the future. And the only neurotransmitter about the future is the molecule of more, dopamine. And our brain needs it for our future in the same way. It's as vital to us as oxygen is to our lungs and our circulatory. It's really, we'll just sit in bed and do nothing if we didn't have dopamine. If you kind of sever, if accidents have led to breakages in the dopamine reward pathway, then you're going to get no desire to reach another goal. You'll have no desire to climb a mountain. When we look into the distance and we see a mountain, we actually get a little buzz of dopamine. You can do it now. Anybody who's listening at home can just open the window, pull the blinds up. If it's the daytime, or wait till the morning, look as far into the distance as you can, and you actually give yourself a little jolt of dopamine. Because it's so important, it can be hijacked really easily. And this is where you get drug addiction, sex addiction, gambling addiction, alcoholism, all of the addictions. They're pretty much all based on delivering dopamine. So if you think about it, the reason why that stops you from fulfilling goals is, well, to your brain, forget your consciousness, that your unconscious brain, it's saying, well, I've got my free massive hit of dopamine now. I don't need to plan for the future. I just need to plan to get this dopamine. So that's what's so important with kids, to start setting those goals early, and achieving those goals, because we get dopamine by achieving goals or learning things or thinking we are closer by meeting our expectations. Like if I go into business with you and I want you to produce content for me, my outcome is to bring new business, to start new conversations, to have some incoming interest in what we're doing. If that's not happening, at some point I'm going to lose. If I've expected that to be the outcome and all I get is lots of likes and no one reaches out to me, then potentially I think that the relationship isn't profitable for me selfishly in the future. So I might even keep using your products and services, but I'll be assessing where else I can bring it from. So that's where the loyalty comes in. If companies, if we realize that we can really value and respect people's dopamine and use it in the right way for their own personal outcomes, not our own outcomes. I'm not talking about the social media companies that literally steal your dopamine and stop you achieving things because they're giving you a little kick every time someone likes your product, or you get a happy birthday from somebody that you've not spoken to. Those little bits of dopamine, they're hijacking that service. So companies are in contact with these dopamine thieves. They're in competition with those guys. They're in competition with drug dealers. They're in competition with casinos. They're in competition because it's all one giant competition for our dopamine.
Attention.
So if we as companies can start thinking about what are the outcomes that our humans are wanting to achieve, and if we can help them achieve those better, well, that dopamine reward pathway means that they're not going to be off looking being promiscuous consumers, seeing where half of their wallet may go to. It's even more important now because I've got a podcast as well, and we interview this wonderful American CX. He's been in CX before the term customer experience was even coined, and he believes that the signs are pointing towards we are now firmly in the transformation economy. We had before 2019, we were kicking and screaming our way into the experience economy. We'd already been through the service economy. The brand economy was in the 80s and 90s, where it only mattered whether you were in Nike or Adidas. Whichever you're saying, you're part of, wherever you are listening in this part of the world. Now it's very much, if we're going to be loyal to people, it's not the experience is still hyper important, because we've now got expectations to being looked after, and our experiences to be a good one, like Amazon giving them one-click refunds. Everybody has to do that now, because as consumers, we've got their expectations. So that's your experience economy. But where companies are kind of moving ahead compared to their competition are those companies that know that they're transforming their life, that are working on transforming their customers' lives, their employees' lives. And those companies are the ones that are making the big moves, the ones that are not wasting this crisis that we all find ourselves in, this transformation that's been put onto all of us. So my message is, think about the basic human building blocks of your business inside and out. Think about how they're trying to transform their lives by their relationship with you, and help them do that more. And you will get and that includes your shareholders, by the way, that includes your managers, it includes your leaders. There's this hyper importance by some of my peers on customers, and yet customers are super important, and employees. And there's this EX versus CX debate, which is more important, but that's facile because they're both humans. It's like, which human's more important? Well, then none of those humans are more important. However, the power should be with the employees and the customers, because that's where the money transacts. But the money doesn't transact with the CEO. The CEO is not the most powerful person in an organization. And I'm not going to hear from 95% of CEOs ever again. But the reality is, if you have a customer-centric view of the world, well, the most important people are the ones that are having the direct relationship with the customers. And everybody else is just supporting that relationship. And if we can start doing that, it's relatively simple. But the thing is, human behavior is hard and difficult. It's really complicated. And we are relying too much on metrics, because no one thinks in numbers, apart from me sometimes, because I'm an analytical person. But generally, those numbers aren't giving us much insight as we're trying to craft better customer experiences or create transformation. But it really is as simple as this. Listen to your customers, listen to your employees, work out what you can action, and make some changes. I mean, those are all of the principles, all of the models, all of the hundreds of questions that are in surveys. The core of it is, how do you engage? How do you get insight from the humans inside and outside your organization, so that you can make insight-driven decisions? It needs to be systemized. It needs to be like we have to take a few steps. We have to think, okay, well, if we're doing that, we want to do that in the most engaging way. Like, we have to realize that the survey aspect is part of the customer journey, not just this little bit where we can interrupt them with a really badly designed survey, or a badly worded, or a survey that doesn't respond, or a survey that they never hear from again, or a badly worded question for a $10,000 purchase. When the value and when the value of the
Yeah.
The relation, the when the value exchange is unbalanced.
Yeah.
Why would I don't get why
Yeah.
somebody who sold me a $43,000 car wouldn't just pick up the phone after 2 weeks and ask me personally how
Yeah.
everything's going, and then that information can be systemized
Or
as
even
opposed
this.
to
Yeah.
yeah. So it is simple. We make it harder. I think sometimes we make it harder with technology. And this year, there are two types of technologies. There are those that are really trying to facilitate closer human connection. And there are those that are trying to ambush human connection. But all of them fall within those areas. One's an attention-seeking technology and tries to get as much engagement as possible through attention-seeking, and the other is how do we help this person get more time back? How do we help them spend less time on this project so they can focus on creativity? How can we give them a new canvas that they can play with? What are other parts of the transformative journey that they may be on that they're currently experiencing pain points that have got nothing to do with me but are impacting the outcome that they're employing me or my product or service for?
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that when you look at that statistic that it's like 80% of purchases are made on emotions and the emotional branding, and that speaks to everything you're talking about with being in this transformation economy. And it's interesting because in my world, I build a lot of brands and products and services, and the number one thing that blows people's mind is when someone's building like a 10K package or a 20K package, a coaching package or a consultation thing, and they say to me, I want it completely evergreened. And I say to them, $20,000 is a conversation. $10,000 is a conversation. And they're like, what do you mean? I have to like get on and talk to somebody? And trust is we have to get on and connect with people. It's the connection and it's the safety and the security and that you're actually listening to them usually is what seals the deal on that 20K or 30K or whatever's bigger to you, 5K. It really a lot of times has absolutely nothing to do with you're going to get this many hours with me and the deliverables. People want to know they're seen, they're valued, they're heard. And I think sometimes in my world, that's where it gets lost, is that everybody wants to evergreen everything. And everybody wants this make money while you sleep, do the least amount to make the most. And what we're really doing when we do that is we're stripping away the human connection.
Yeah.
And
you have to systemize that. Like
yeah,
we speak to founders, and there's two types of founders: those that do understand the outcome they're trying to achieve, and those that don't. So the ones that do understand the outcome, or we can help understand the outcome, they're usually pretty connected with the humans outside their organization. They're taking an interest in their customer journey, so they've got this constant feedback going on. So they don't often see the benefit of systemizing it, and sometimes it can be a bit too early to systemize it. Like we're all bootstrapping everything, so to then put some money aside on a customer feedback tool that's going to create insights that will pay off in the long term, very difficult for a founder to agree to that or to see the value in that. But they can start systemizing like a CRM system. I think that's one of the things that's so important, such an early stage, and to fill it with good stuff. Fill it with stuff that you can use as well. Like, don't collect birthdays if you're never going to do anything with it.
Right. Amen.
But like, does reaching out to somebody on their birthday fit with the level of trust that you've built up? Like, I don't think that's something. If I'd just been on somebody's website and hadn't really engaged with them apart from downloading a white paper, but I had to give them my birthday and then I got a happy birthday from them, it would just be a bit weird.
Yeah, agreed. Make sure there's always a strategy or there's an intent behind, and really it's for connection and for relationship building. Exactly.
And there's things you can pick up as you go. Like, you don't I think
Yeah.
CRMs are often seen as this tool, and I've seen in my sales career, it's like something you have to fill in because it's going to be checked. If I think about the number of CRM systems that I've been asked to fill in over my sales career, I don't think anybody has really clarified why. It's much more of what to do, and this needs to be done because we have to check on you. And then all of a sudden, because it doesn't circle back to the providing a better, more personalized service for our clients and customers. Now, that's something a customer-centric salesperson can really get behind. So yeah, again, it's that outcome, isn't it? It's that focus on the why we're doing things.
Yeah.
And so we need to stop and ask our customers why. We need to understand why. Like, the problem with asking customers why they're doing things, sometimes they don't necessarily know yet.
Yeah, right.
They don't know yet.
Even
what they
survey.
want, they don't necessarily want the right things either.
Same thing. People say, I say, don't survey people. And they're like, oh my God, you have to survey in the very beginning stages. And I say, they don't know what they want. They don't know what they need in the very beginning, kind of early stages. What do you think about companies in this landscape where we're shooting this, 2020? A lot of people have been working from home. And there are companies and bosses and places that are like, no, I'm not allowing my employees to do that. Or because this whole, how do I know if you're being productive at home? I think there's this myth around hours worked equals outcome or productivity or success. And as entrepreneurs, we know that is not true whatsoever. You could be crazy productive in 20 minutes than something that takes 8 hours. So where do you see the businesses and the brands that are going to succeed? What do you forecast? What do they need to have to know they're going to be successful?
An outcome, I think an outcome mindset is just being forced onto everybody, apart from those that are saying there should be tax cuts for those, there should be tax. People should be taxing themselves for working from home and all of those kind of things and cutting their wages. Like those people need to realize that they're dinosaurs when it comes to the wider world that we are exchanging our time and money within. It's where do you begin? Start with your meetings. What are you focusing on? I see it everywhere at the moment in New Zealand, where people are questioning what the hourly rate is of somebody who's a consultant. And I'm saying, why are you even looking at the hourly rate? I'm going to take it back to a cleaner. We had a cleaner who said she could do 3 hours and it was $20. And I'd come in after the cleaning and I'd be checking whether or not there'd be 3 hours worth of work done. I wasn't coming in to check whether or not the house was to the standard that I expected it to be cleaned at. And I don't think that people work that well when they're being judged on their activity. I think that you get far better productivity from people when they're achieving things, when no one gets any dopamine for activity.
Right.
They only get dopamine for outcomes.
Yes.
So create sprints, you need to create your own expected activity with agreed outcomes, and then your teams can think about what's required for those outcomes. Give them, we're going to Everest, and let them work out what the map is. Let them orientate themselves.
Yeah, don't give them the how.
They're going to get there. I mean, if I walk next door and say, right, here's your map and you're going to Everest, as opposed to, look, this is the chance to get to Everest. We'll pay for you to get there. It's probably a really bad metaphor actually there, if I think about it, but you know what I mean.
I do. Yeah.
People, when people commit to their own journey,
yes,
they achieve greater things than when they're on somebody else's expected trajectory.
Yeah, they get to bring their own skills, their own talents, their own passions.
It's also very egotistical that we think we know how everything should be done and how long it should take.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest, if I find somebody who can save me 10 hours in my business, well, let's say we've got 50 hours this week. So one of my days, if they could give me that back, I don't care if they get that job down to 5 hours. I'll still pay them for the job. They're saving me that time. They've worked out a way to do it in a more efficient way. Maybe they'll have time to do more things. Like I've seen throughout my entire career that as people achieve things, they get more and more engaged. It sounds so trite to say some of these things. It seems such common sense. Like what other places outside, are some of those business owners in their family home? Does micromanagement work with their children? It doesn't work with mine.
Never.
Mine.
Yeah, you've got 4.
I can't remember whether we were talking in the green room or it was part of this conversation. So sorry to the listeners. We were talking for about half an hour before we got really.
We were, yes.
And it was so fascinating where we were going. But we were talking about the children aspect, weren't we?
Yes. Yeah.
And we were talking about what happens when we get stressed.
Yep.
And I've got a friend, Simon Fowler, he helps people map bad day behaviors. Because it's really powerful to know how you behave badly at your worst, because that's what you need to be looking out for. Now, forget about being perfect in the areas where you're really good.
Yes.
The biggest pain point is the biggest opportunity. Your biggest problem is your biggest opportunity.
Yep. That's where I was sharing how I go into like hyper control mode, and I micromanage my entire family to the minute, and all that does is end up with my husband, my son, and me in tears. It just doesn't work. And I love that bad day behavior. Like, look at how you're operating and look at how you're interacting. You're talking about that customer experience. Look at how you're interacting with other people and what effect that's having. Oh, I love that. I need to have you back on to dive deeper into this.
I know. I mean, pain points is what I like to spend time in pain points. And I think companies should embrace their pain points and start thinking how seeing them as opportunity. I think people are doing that this year, though. I'm going back, circle it around to 2020. I think that's literally what's had to happen. I don't think I'm telling a lot of people anything new today. Maybe it's just some confirmation. But if you think about your year, you've been looking for the biggest pain points. You really have. And you've been fixing those biggest pain points because those biggest pain points have been stopping you. It's like taking the handbrake off.
Yeah.
It really is. Like the handbrake's the biggest issue, so let the handbrake go, and then you can start tinkering with the engine and putting nice mufflers on and whatnot. But take the handbrake off first. Whatever is number one, get rid of that. Aim for there. Yeah. And I'd love to come back on the show. And I'm sorry I don't have more time today.
It's okay. I appreciate you taking the time out today. What is the best way if they want to get in contact with you? I'll put it in the show notes. What's the best way to get connected to you?
Yeah, sure. I have a very low bar of acceptance on LinkedIn, so please say hi on there. We've come to the website www.halftimeorange.co.nz, all one word. We've recently republished the website. Would love to know what you think about it as well. It's always we're all working in silos of the people that we might be speaking to and we might be communicating with. So we're about, I'm not sure when this will go out, but mid-December, we're launching our video-based voice of customer platform on our own website. And so if you'd like to view the website and then come and tell us what you think, good or bad, we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, I wish you all a really good day.
Amazing. Brenton, thank you so much for being here. Listeners, thank you for being here. And we'll catch you next time on the Lisa Pezik Show.